I think, maybe,
Yep,
possibly.
you're live right now.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So, yes, we are live now. I just got to give it a second because a page will come up of us and then we will start echoing if I do not catch it on time. So I'm going to try to catch that. Pay attention to that. Tams, if you would like to take it away, my lady.
Hello, world. Tonight we are having a wonderful chat with the Theresa Lepre, and we're going to talk about her Rise Up movement and her new book, and just chit chat for a girls' night out.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. That sounds
Yeah.
interesting and exciting.
So we welcome you, Theresa. We love you.
Love you girls
oh my
too.
gosh. Yeah, it's been so awesome following you. And I feel like, for me, and I think I can speak for Norma here, we feel like you're our personal mentor.
Right?
Really?
Yes, yes.
Honestly, because I don't ever think of myself as that, because I simply do what I do and I don't label myself at all. And when I hear things like that, that's very moving. Thank you. I'm honored.
That's the way it should be, really.
I'm very honored.
When you pick someone or choose someone that doesn't necessarily take on that role per se, yeah, that's always,
You ladies are doing wonderful. I also feed off of you guys. And although I'm not on social media as much as I would like to be, I follow you guys and I learn from you guys. And I have seen the progress that you guys have made on your journey through the many polarities that we all face, because we have to, tackle human life. So it's an honor and a pleasure, and it's a very respectful place to be. And thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, we connect with you so deeply that you are one that walks the talk.
It's very hard to do that, though, Tam.
It is. It is. And we want to be that also. We are coming up behind you in this Rise Up movement. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got started and what exactly it is that you do.
So one of the things that I am proactive on is bridging everyday life with the divine essence. And I realize that there's many modalities that come along when someone is searching for what they cannot see, be it faith, be it a better way. And when we go searching, we are always looking out, but we're never looking in, type of a thing. And I realized that it didn't matter what knowledge was gifted to a person. The real beginning place was inside yourself, because as you unraveled yourself, as you went down deep, because everyday life happens and there's a story behind every door. And even the most enlightened amongst us have had a beginning process that they had to go through in order for them to understand things like compassion, human resolution, coming together in a place where people can coexist. And that's some heavy duty stuff to do, because we live in a world that has many polarities. But sometimes we get so caught up in the outer part that we forget there's an inner part. And what we do is we begin to just spew out knowledge, and the knowledge that we're talking about, we never implement because we kind of segregate ourselves. And I don't want to do that, because I feel that humanity is more than what we see. And in order for us to expand, we need to look inside and then expand together, because there's a lot of things going on that we don't want to face, like homelessness, like governments falling down, getting through everyday life as we know it and still keep the balance and have this essence where we have clarity. That's very hard to do as you're streamlining energy, as you are understanding your own gifts and how do you use it and where does that really put you on this chain. So that's why I created Rise Up.
That is a beautiful purpose right there, because so many really do need that help and that guidance and understanding. Really understanding how understanding yourself helps you to understand the world.
Yeah, because we're afraid of our dark, right, Norm?
Right.
Don't you get that sometimes? But it's not a bad place if we balance it. But we have no moderation.
Right.
So I learned about that dark place, and I learned about the energy, and I learned about the higher self, and I learned about the telekinetics of it all. And it's a process, and you don't get there instantaneously. And people are afraid to talk about that because they think it takes away from the divine. But I say it enhances the human. So very controversial sometimes, but it's never to sway people. It's for people to have their own thinking process and say, let me dig deep within myself. Let me see what I come up with. So we created Rise Up, and we have a team of people who are coming together, who are putting in their input. And as we co-collaborate, we are using our tools to get to the issues that are lurking in mankind's mind and heart. And why is that so hard to say? We get so tied up, and we're so afraid to say it that we lose that inner essence. And that doesn't mean you don't filter, because yes, I get mad sometimes. Yes, there's days where I just have to kick back and chill back. Yes, I have to look at my own issues that sometimes I think that I streamline, and then they pop up at the weirdest moment. So yeah, why not talk about that? Don't you think that we would be better enhanced if we did?
Oh, yes. Yes, that I do. That I do. And
Me too.
speaking of which, I was reading the pages that I received.
Oh, did you?
Essence of the Heart. I did. I didn't get through all of it. Unfortunately, I've been scatterbrained. I'm not going to say busy per se, because I've been busy, but not, I could be busier. I've been very scattered.
Happens. We all go through that.
You're right. So I did read some of it, and it's beautiful how just being able to express that in a way that is totally your experience, but so absolutely useful and helpful to so many. I found it to be beautiful.
Thank you very much, because we all go through it. And I think what happens, is that when we are transforming, we tend to forget that what we are transforming is the old human habits.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that has to be dealt with and worked on before you could step into these multidimensional facets that people want to experience. But I said to myself, rather, when I was starting out, that's glorious, because in the mind's eye, in the imagination, we could always get to that place. But to get to that place and actually utilize it, where all the garbage that is inside of you is released, and you could balance, and you could be in total acceptance of your surroundings. That was more important to me, because the more I became relaxed inside, the more I was able to say, wow, some screwed up shit happened to me along the way. And yes, I'm at this point, but if I rewind it and I say to myself, yes, you had to deal with abandonment issues starting back from when your mom and dad divorced, and you didn't probably even realize that these were some of the issues that kept you from trusting. Now you get this epiphany, and this epiphany happens, which was always there for me, but stagnated, and you begin to go deep. And you can't look at someone else, and we've all looked at other people, because it makes our wounds sometimes feel better, right?
Right.
And then we say, stop. Let me go inside and let me look at that, because this person is having experience. And I know damn well when I close the door, I have my own demons inside. And what really are those demons? And those demons are the conditioning of this way of life that we live. I'm ugly. I'm fat. She's better than me. I'm divine. You're not. I have knowledge. All this soot that we have been programmed. And then we start digging and saying, well, what are the ugly parts of me that I want to face? Because whether they were put upon me or not, I feel them. Yeah. And you start going in and you start transforming. And little by little, day by day, you start learning about the energy, and you start learning about the co-creation around you. And yeah, some things you have to live with that are very unfair, and say, this part of my treasure chest, I have to put this away and only revisit it if a situation comes up that could put me back into that part of my life. And those are difficult things to do, because we're all looking for other beings to save us. That aren't we the story ourselves? So I'm very pro on those things. And Impressions of the Heart was something that was organic because I was writing that every day because I was interacting with everyday people who unconsciously or not understood the grind they were in, and they understand it's not working. So if we talk about these issues that are very uncomfortable, people say, well, that's all we need is love, and we create our own story. And if we want to change it, we have to do A, B, and C. Those things are not easy to do. So what really works for the person? And that became a big thing for me. And as I began to transform, I began to master certain things where I could say, oh no, that doesn't work like that. Don't be a shemegi type of thing, you know, and let's go forth with that. And I think that's the real human condition. I think that's how we get to the divine essence of self. And then we can move magic any way we want.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I was reading a little bit today too, and I seen the comment in the book that where you talk about not every situation requires an immediate response.
Absolutely.
So we're learning to control our emotions, but yet be real with ourselves. And I'm seeing more people reaching out today for healing, to go in and heal those things that are popping up. And we don't have to look for it because it's there in your face. You don't have to go digging around looking for something to heal, because every day we have to deal with something within ourselves that triggers us and pops up that we need to heal. And I just love how you're bridging that and you're helping people to get real with themselves. I just love it. I can't say enough about it.
Thank you very much. I'm for the great work. And when I say the great work, that is the shift to the most simplistic ways that are the most difficult to adhere by. Because this power and this energy that comes with being awakened can be misused. And people do not want to speak about it because then they think that we're not spiritual, or that they think we're not loving. But I say that's quite the opposite. I say that if you're able to understand the middle path that is attributes to your higher state of awareness, then the co-creation and the exchange becomes easier. And we could then begin to create instead of having massive destruction. It becomes massive construction. You follow what I mean? Yeah. And that's one of my goals. And the ritualistic things that happen, the different facets of how people use energy, I understand that all. But my main concern for me personally is to bridge the everyday life. So those facets of the gifts, so those facets of the co-creation can actually stimulate mankind as we evolve. Because what people are really searching for is for their senses to be in conjunction with one another. And I'm talking about not only the five senses, beyond that. So really, when people are looking out for higher sources, or if they're channeling, what they're really is looking for their inner self to guide them. But we're so unsure of our inner self. We're so afraid to say, wow, am I second guessing myself, or this is coming in and this is nuts, or this power, I understand this energy. Now, what do I use it for? Because you can master manipulate with this energy.
Oh, yeah.
And people are afraid to talk about that. And I, have been doing this for many, many years, and I have understood every facet, because when you are opening up and transforming, anybody who tells you temptation does not knock at your door, I don't believe that. Because it does, because you're molding, you're forming it. And actually, if you are to understand it, you have to understand in your own awareness, what is your triggers? What is your seduction? That type of thing. Yeah. And if you talk to people about it, they were like, well, we just want to be on this love frequency. And yes, I understand that. But how do you get to the love frequency if you don't understand the human frequency first?
Right.
Oh, wow. That's a good point.
Yeah,
and it really is. That was beautifully put, because I really do believe that there's we all want to get to that spiritual point where we somehow leave the humanness behind and we're just up in the love frequency. But the magic, the beauty, the experience, the knowledge is all within being human right now.
Absolutely.
It's coming to know that, live with that balance and experience.
Invite it in, have fun along the way, but actually, well, you know what it is, and I laugh because I have to, we get full of ourselves sometimes, right?
Yes,
it's just human nature. And then we get full of ourselves. We say we drop the labels, but sometimes we don't, because we think that we have this knowledge and we alone are going to change the world, right? And that's a human thing that happens, and that's nothing to be ashamed of, because that passes through you and it's part of the experience. But when I was really rewinding that, I says, now if we take that, right, and if we take this knowledge and we transform and we understand these basic triggers that happen, because there's love, there's joy, there's hate, there's passion, etc., so on, those emotions, and we begin now to implement this frequency to say, okay, I understand how that quicksand is. I'm not stepping in that direction. And now let's use this frequency, this energy, to coalesce, to come together. I think that's the coolest thing. But along the way, say, look, I understand the way that is. I understand your story, your pain, your temptation. And now you know. There's no beating yourself up. Simply don't do it no more. Simply understand when you do it after you know you made a choice, and then you will be dealt with accordingly to the individuals that you're interacting with. So I find it all very fascinating, because as much as we say the human element doesn't get in the way, it does. And I laugh. Oh, yes, it does. And I'm like, okay, all right, something's definitely wrong with me, and I question I'm like, oh my God, I consider myself to be slightly awakened. Something must be totally wrong with me. And then I sit back and I rewind. I'm like, no, because everybody else is feeling it too, but they just have different reasons why they are not saying it. So it's like that round robin catch 22. I want to live in the humanness. I want to experience joy, whatever that joy might be that fits my life. And I want to put aside that pain, because what I am speaking of is this mental and emotional feeling that happens before you get to any divine level. And then if you want to play, I'll play with you. I'll play in your playground. Any ritual you want to do.
Right.
You can jiggle and dab a little bit. You know what I mean? That type of thing. I think the human is really like the key way to start.
Yep.
I think that some of that, though, is tapping into the divine, and we don't even realize it. When we get to a point where we are seeing and experiencing that joy and just being who we are and just being the love that we are, and we can examine ourselves without beating ourselves up. That's tapping into the divine.
Absolutely.
But how do you help someone that is so bruised that they cannot even begin to look at themselves, let alone see themselves as divine? Patience. Where do you start?
Start with a lot of patience. You start when to be very sympathetic. You understand when you have to come in and you have to speak very openly. But you don't have to be so harsh and raw where you take that wound and you tear into it. I think sometimes we don't know what to say, and we don't know how to heal, that we simply don't want to say. There are some parts of us that are going to remain broken, and we're entitled to that. But in order for us to have a semi peaceful consciousness, we have to be able to get to a place where every day we have some type of gratitude. And that's not always easy to do, because if you tell, people have different emotions. So I think if you step into things with a genuineness and you understand the modalities of a human heart, a human soul, that all abuses are different and people handle things differently, and what you're dealing with, you could have an open and honest discussion, and some wounds never heal. And that really is something that we don't want to say, because then that means we're less than perfect, but we're not less than perfect. What we are is we were involved with things that broke down the human element. And now that we are awakened, we must come to solutions and actions. And we must talk about these very difficult things that happen, because it is humanity's streamline in itself that either goes forward or steps back and stagnates itself into the second death, so to speak. And I'm just speaking symbolic. And the heart space is something that we don't want to go into, because it's the most tender, the most vulnerable, and the most malicious, if we really think about it. And if we really look at that and we understand the middle path, we understand what the Egyptians spoke of the second death, the second Egypt. They're very symbolic terms that really do have a prevalent in 2017. We get to understand that the most simplistic is the human nature that we hold inside. And it's easier to say we're influenced by wicked forces when those wicked forces live inside of us. And we are given the opportunity to understand them and say, we change now. Whether we were conditioned into it, whether people say it's an illusion, whether people say nothing exists, no labels, drop it, etc., so on, all that I'm cool with. I can understand every facet of any belief system. But any belief system will always go back to the heart of the individual, of the human mind, and it coexists within one another. And if you could crack that code, if you could begin to understand it, then you begin to do the great work, because then nothing else matters, because you are solely stepping in. And then you could understand why certain people do certain things they do. You can understand when you have to say, okay, now they're totally aware and they absolutely know what they're doing. So I think what people are going to see in the next 6 months is that the awakened will be going through a conscious, almost test, I'm going to say, because now you have all this knowledge. You could sway people, you could turn around and you could present yourself in many different formats, because that's the human experience, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And now you will be tested too, including myself. Every single body that has this quest to walk in the middle path, because now your next stage of development will happen. And that's, again, the human heart, to move the energy, because there's a lot of conditions.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of conditions in the segments of higher awareness. And I want to say the heck with that. And I do say the heck with that, because I want to be able to be human.
Yeah.
As I understand my divinity, I want to be able to have a relationship with my brothers and sisters and say, look, let's learn this knowledge together. And let's understand what it is to coexist together. And my pain and your pain is the same, even though the situations might be different. But now what do we do about it? Let's stop sitting on the fence. And I do it. And that's why I created Rise Up. That's why I'm for humanity. That's why I raise controversial issues. Yes, I am in my personal life very soft, but I understand that in transformation, I had to go through some very painful situations. And I choose not to dwell on those situations, because for me, the action is the key. And that's the action of peace of mind, of collaborating with my brothers and sisters as I rise up with them, as I take the step with them, as I understand. Let me teach you about the energy. I'll teach you about the energy I know. Please teach me about your tools and tell me how you get it, because we're at the place where you could, how do you get to self-worth? What's the steps you take? How do you overcome fear? How do you understand these energies? And as you are moving these energies and you are letting your higher consciousness lead the way in your humanness, right? How do you do that? There's keys to do that. And you have to get real. You have to get real as a human being first. Because if you don't, how do you move forward? And please, I invite people to tell me if there is something I'm missing. I want to learn that. I want to go to that next step. And I am learning it. And again, it comes back to your actions, understanding, catching yourself when you're about to make that blunder, You know, understanding that filter happens. And if you have to have an open and honest discussion, can you do it without this hatred and this point of the finger in the name of higher awareness because we think that we have it covered? God, no, we don't. Let's get it covered, you know, and that's how I rock and roll. And that's how I live my life. And it wasn't always like that. And I've seen many things, and I've seen many situations, from the most joyous to the most deplorable within human nature, and the people I have come across, even with my own issues as I was changing over my emotional status. So this is something that's fixed in humanity. Let's change the DNA. And then let's say if there are people who choose openly that they want to follow the negative path in the name of the light, so be it. But that's your path. And what happens there, you have to deal with. But you're not going to come in my path without me raising an action and a voice, because I'm afraid in the name of love that I'm any less spiritual. I don't buy that. That's not true. I might be more spiritual, you know, like that type of a format. So I think that these issues should be raised. And I think we should discuss them. And after it's discussed, it's discussed. That's all it is. It's just an open discussion to your life.
Yeah. Yeah, see, and that's the way I see it. I figure, you know, you may know more things about this thing than I know, but I may know more things about this thing than you know, and you may know more things about that thing than I know. And that's, how can anyone be any more anything if you may know even just that one thing differently than I know it, that might be different, you know what I mean, that I don't know. And so I feel, we all should just, it's I don't know.
I want to tell you something.
But I feel like, when we go and do that for I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right, Norm. You're my sweet pea lady. And you have true heart and you have true soul. And when I was overcoming trust issues, because up until I'm not a wishy-washy person, although I'm a very heartful person. It's just my nature not to be that way, because I have learned to master the strength that helps people. And I have to remember that I'm also vulnerable too. But when you are co-creating and you are now empowering, it is a sisterhood that we are building as well as a brotherhood. And I've experienced that firsthand with Lee Cara and Crystal March in an area now that the next stage of development on a human level is that we're really co-collaborating together. We're putting our tools together as we understand our own human tendencies to say, look, this is what happens. And yes, we could tell you stories, but now the action comes from you. And that's very liberating, because now I'm not about drama, Norm, and you know that. I'll say what I have to say, and I step away from it, because to me that gives me a headache. Because as we're creating that drama, we could have educated a girl who was just about to get pregnant because her world was lost and she didn't know anything about love. And maybe through that one seed that we planted, that remembrance in her heart, she passes it along, and vice versa, whatever the situation is. And I think that's how you really start changing the love frequency. And you start building from there, and then the magic happens, the magic happens inside you.
Yeah. See, and I always had this thing. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of posts lately about fake people and fake whatever. That's been my motto. Fake it till you make it. I may not feel happy right now, but I'm going to tell myself I'm happy. I'm going to tell myself that it's not so bad. I'm going to tell myself I can get through this. And that was faking it at the moment because it didn't feel so great.
But you were retraining.
Now, when I look at it now, I can actually say those things and feel those things and mean those things.
Isn't that cool?
Yes.
That's cool, right? To be able to truly exhale with no agenda. That is a wonderful thing to do. And I think that, when it comes to channeling and when it comes to card reading and when it comes to ritualistic things, I'm very well versed, but I don't feel a need to bring that into certain arenas, because
Right.
to me, that's my sacred time.
Right.
Or if I'm one-on-one with a client and certain things have to be presented. But I never focus on that, because once you start focusing on that, that trips you up.
Yeah.
Then it takes away, because now you're outbesting yourself or
Yeah.
outbesting the next person. And you're like, what the frig is going on here? That's like so uncool. And then you start going and you start doing and you start manifesting. And what is manifesting? Manifesting is what you want. And for me, the peace of mind is the first thing that is a positive to the experience, because when you have peace of mind and acceptance, you begin to create now. Now you could create, now you flow, now
Yes.
you understand the great work. You know, does that make sense, Tam, to you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does. And I think as we realize who we really are and we begin to trust ourselves more and more, we're going to step away from channeling and step away from card reading and things of that nature, because it still brings a separation. Like you said, that, oh, somebody needs a little help and you're more spiritual, so they're going to come to you. It's not that at all. It's walking in your true essence of who you are and being able to serve somebody else and meet them at their need.
Absolutely.
It's that simple. It's just about meeting people at their need and sharing with them love and trust and honesty, and giving them what you can to build them up and edify them and bring them to a place where they can start loving themselves and trusting themselves. And that is the test. Every time we grow a little bit and expand a little bit in our conscious awareness, we're going to be tested in that.
Absolutely.
We're going to be tested, because are we going to stand for what we truly believe, or are we going to fall back to the old?
That's a very hard test, because you know what, we're afraid to raise our voice. Most people are afraid to raise their voice, and I decided a long time ago, look, on my journey, my personal path, I might as well just do what I need to do, because if I'm going out, I'm going out anyway, right?
Yeah.
And as I live my life, I want to know for Theresa. Theresa's human vessel wants to know. And as she understands and learns things, she's going to leave information behind. And whether you use it or not is entirely up to you. But those who knew me my whole life understand my whole transformation. And that's the beauty of it, because you're leaving pieces behind. And now, when I am with my granddaughters, I can implement everything that I have learned into them without the bullshit and the gluck. And I say it straight like that, because that's a wonderful thing to do. Yeah. And then you see some change. And that's just my contribution, my relationship with them. Of course, they have parents and they have to go out into the world, but I'd be damned if I would keep my mouth shut after knowing all this and not implement it, because I understand what it is to get to it through much pain, right? And people don't want to say that, because then they think they're not magical, but you are so magical, because that's the experience. That is the energy. And if we all started to understand that from the heart space, and hold space, then the energy of manifesting more frequently would just be part of life. But it's very hard to let go. So I will raise those controversial issues, and I will just give food for thought, because if I asked myself those questions, and I speak to people who ask themselves those questions at certain parts of the journey, don't you think a million other people are asking them to themselves and they don't know how to verbalize it? So let's verbalize it for them, because we've already been through it. So now we understand a little bit. We understand the signs.
Oh, I guess we have some questions. We want to answer some questions, guys?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Murphy Tina said, I keep getting stuck in fear and trust issues big time. So I guess that's her question. How do I get through that?
Well, trust usually goes back to fear, and fear goes back to an emotional trauma that happened to you. And we get comfortable in the fear of it all because, as I was saying before, our own demons cause us to stagnate. And when I use the word demons in this sentence, I mean the things that we're rough on in ourselves, right? And you have to go back to whatever that is for you. And you have to nurse it, and you almost have to talk it down. And what you have to do is you have to balance it. And when those urges come up that it might get out of control, you should breathe, or you should come to that place where your mind sets in and you say, wait, let me rethink this, and let me try a new way of approaching it, because I know the old way. I know the pain. So if I know pain, and if I take a different way and it doesn't work out, maybe it'll be a little less pain. And that's some hard stuff to do, because this is a constant repetition when you are first transforming, when you are first healing, because now we have to go to places we don't want to go. So there's no easy answer, but there is one answer to begin, and begin in the most rational place that you can start. And if you need to take baby steps, take baby steps. And if you need to speak to somebody, even if that's a conversation with yourself, do it.
Yeah, I agree, Murphy Tina. I used to get through my stuff, which I'm more than willing to say that I'm not done with any of my issues, and I may work on them for the rest of my life. I don't know. But for fear and trust with me was just a constant of asking of myself, why is this guy so, why is it I don't want to trust it? Why is it I'm so afraid of it? And getting too stuck in those questions in our mind can be, it's a fine line, because we can just sit there and be stuck in contemplation mode for too long. But really just for me, trying to understand why it was that for someone that maybe I didn't know very well, or for unknown reasons, I suddenly just didn't trust something. It was asking myself why.
A red light went off. Yeah, absolutely. What does it bring me back to? Does it bring me back to a time and place that, I had to survive? Because we don't want to say that either. So we had to do things to survive. And now we're fearful of those things because that place is pain. There's so many facets to the emotional essence of the heart and what happens to people. There are things that happen to people. I was looking at an article today, and there was such a bittersweet to this article, and it was so moving. So in South East Malaysia, they factory young children for body parts, and they had a very graphic picture out of these children that were they're human factories. And you sit there and you come to this place in higher awareness, and you see the fear that people are living in, and so many things that are happening, and people who could do this, and et cetera, so on. And now we're enlightened, right? And these fears that we don't want to face within humanity is the very fears that not only keep us stagnated as individuals in our own life, but keep us from moving forward. And I sat there for 5 minutes, and I just was in that Nell zone. And I say to myself, I'm blessed that I am given the opportunity to have a voice. And the very issues that are happening in humanity as we raise higher awareness are the things that we have to address in order for us to get to the next level. And so many people don't want to, because it's easier to think of just being in an eternal love than really changing it. So that's why Rise Up was created too, for the voice of the people. The people need a voice. The mass population need a voice. It's not only about us. Everybody should have an opportunity, whether you're conscious or not. Right. Most people are aware that life for them is very stressful. I work with the everyday Joe. I have this motto. I'm not so concerned about working with those who I know are super enlightened because they already know what they have to do, like I already know. So now how do we bridge this and come together? Because that's what Rise Up is. Rise Up to bridge together the humanity as we enter the divine, and then the frequency will raise and the manifestation will come. And that's how I rock and roll it. And I don't make no bones about it. And I have love, honor, and respect for everybody that I meet. But I also do deal with shemegis, you know, I'm not afraid to say that because I think that's a deterrent for us. And it's not that you falter, because if you falter and you realize that, but you come back with open arms, we will accept you with open arms because we've all been there. But there comes a time that you have to stop talking and sitting on the fence and implement it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yes.
It's not for you.
Right.
Okay, so if it's not for you, you're going to go back to sleep. But constantly talking at people, constantly segregating within our own walls, that lowers the frequency of love. And then the love is only spread out in spurts instead of being spread out collectively. And I realized that that was an issue. So what do? We speak about it. We're tender about it. And if we don't agree about it, we don't have to become malicious about it. And if there's a stop point, then we stop the point. And I really think that that's something that humanity has forgotten because we have become very conditioned to be this certain reptilian way of thinking. And I'm not talking about a 22-foot reptilian that's going to come at you. I'm talking about symbolically in our mind. Because if you think about it, a reptilian mind, and I, you know, is someone who might be intelligent but very cunning and deceives you from your path. And that's what we are changing, because all these facets that are the human condition, the facets of what we have to address, isn't that reptilian thinking? Isn't that a reptilian way of being? So we're children of love and light, and we're warriors of the divine essence. So how do we change it? We change ourselves first. We come together to work together. And as we do that, we collectively go out and say, we see you as well as you see us, big brother. And yes, what could you really do for us, to us? Kill us?
Right.
Okay. I'm going out anyway. You know what I mean? So it's at this point, are we real or not? Are we genuine or not? Can we move a heart space? Can we have empathy? And all those things mean something to me. And that doesn't mean that I'm not straightforward, because if I will call something, I would say, oh, this is not cool. Or if in my inner circle, I will speak very privately and say, this is what I'm feeling. And, you know, as a counsel, do we step back? Do we observe? Do we go in? There's nothing wrong with that. How do we change it if we don't do it?
Exactly.
Please, you know.
That's awesome.
Any other questions?
No questions.
All right. I guess there's no more questions at
No
the moment.
shemeggies.
No
No
shemeggies.
shemeggies?
So yeah. So that's awesome. But yeah, that's exactly it. It's really I feel like even those that there are many that are awakened that don't realize they're awakened. There are many that just, you know, have stuff that are happening or that they just simply don't understand or don't, you know what I mean? Yeah, I feel like the more we talk about these things, the more people start to understand, oh, that's what that is. You know what I mean? Instead of feeling like they're crazy or feeling like they're, you know, there's something wrong with them, which is the common feeling, I think, between most humans. There's something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? Nothing. It's understanding you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's because that really is. I've come across a lot of people that just don't want to be crazy. They just want to know they're not.
They want to be peace, and they want to know that, you know what, their life means something, and they don't want to be 30 years old and be despaired where they have a quarter of a century meltdown, and that's deep. That's really deep. I never heard of, you know, like, okay, so in my generation, we did have things, but we reset. You know, I never heard at being 25 that it was so bad that you wanted to really take this turn of events that is happening. And I say, wow, that's our responsibility now, because we're the awakened ones, in a sense where we have this transformation process going on and we understand all these things. Who reaches out to the people who don't quite understand it? And yes, if we are a little damaged, so what? But there's a difference between being a little damaged and being able to coexist than going all buck wild and just living in a chaotic world and no answers. Don't we search? You know, they say you have to participate in a revolution in order to get things done. And we have seen that throughout history. But don't you have to participate in evolution in order for us to evolve? And that really is the issues that we are speaking about in Rise Up. We are putting material out there so that it's not one way. It's what are people thinking? What do they want to see, and how do we work on it without tipping the scales and we create more chaos? And that's human basic emotions, human basic needs that are not being met. Those are the most challenging at this point.
All right, Shelley Boissier says she doesn't understand why we need to go back and dig in the pain. Why can't we just let it go? It's holding me back. I don't want to go there again.
Well, if you can let it go and it doesn't hold you back, then I would suggest use that method for yourself. But you said something that was very significant. Why do we have to keep getting stuck? If you are saying we, you're including yourself in that, young lady. And that's a relevant question. And only you could answer that. And if you don't want to revisit it and you want to move forward, then one of the things you can do is just continue to move forward in a way that's a new path and a new life for yourself, where that's abated for you. And then you will take an action rather than live within a reaction of your own thoughts and your own mind. That's one of the ways that you can begin to revert it. But most people can't forget and move on. They have to revisit that pain, and they have to get to a core, because there is something that needs to be validated within themselves that they are not alone, and you are not alone. And I think that that's one of the hardest things for people to verbalize what they really feel inside, because they think they're oddballs and outcasts, and that's not the case.
Hey, Sharon.
And I want to wait. Can I back in there a minute?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I want to back in there a minute too. If you keep getting triggered by that pain, then you have not. All you've done is cover it up. All you've done is cover it up. And you really have to sometimes go back and revisit that pain, as painful as it is, so that you inside of you internally, you can change that story and restamp your subconscious mind just by changing your thought pattern and replaying that story to end the way you would like to see it end. That also can bring a deep healing within, so that you can completely move forward. But if you're just trying to sweep over the pain because you don't want to feel the pain anymore, you will continue to be triggered by that until you address the underlying issue.
Absolutely, I agree.
Do you agree with that? Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes we need to go back and revisit that pain and feel it. But with a counselor, with a professional, you can do that in such a way where you can change that story in your subconscious mind through hypnotism, through working with someone that does inner healing. And there's different modalities that you can take. So, I mean, if you can go forward, like Theresa said, more power to you. You don't have to revisit it. You don't have to dig it up again. But if something comes along and triggers it, then I would say you should probably go a little bit deeper.
All right, Sharon Boyle. Theresa, how long after you were awakened, before you met some people within your locality to share your experience with?
For me, Sharon, my awakening was with me from early on. Because if I am honest within myself, I always had this sixth sense. And I always was attracted to anything that was mystifying, right? But in my own local area, there's many people who call themselves many different things. I come from New York City. So it's not odd that people practice many different things. But the biggest thing for me in the awakening and what I see is that people want to be heard. And whether they call it spirituality, whether they call it a voice of self, whether they call it a change of heart, it really is a human condition. So I don't necessarily just hang with the spiritual community. It's not like that for me. I interact with many different types of people, and I love and respect on many different types of levels. So it's always about infinite intelligence. It's about evolving. It's about co-creating through the arts, through poetry. It's about understanding the human condition as we know it. And to me, that's the most sacred and that's the most spiritual interaction that I could have.
Yes.
It's awesome. Yeah. That's really
I love that.
Yeah.
Alice Manuel.
Alice Manuel, how can I do it when I have a depression problem?
Now that's not easy.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure if you have a depression problem, I don't know what your background is, but some people who are depressed are on meds. And the meds in itself keep you in a state of mind that neutralizes you to a numbness. I'm not saying that happens to you, but that's usually 90%. And what are you depressed about becomes the issue. And depression is like anything else. You have to learn to master it. And there's a lot of highs and lows. And depending on the depth is the way that you address it, because no two people are the same. And for me to go deeper into that, I would have to speak with you. So I'm just going to generalize it for you. You yourself will have to determine what depresses you. Do you get depressed by people around you? Is it a particular situation that you can't get over? There's so many modalities to that. And I think that's your first key. Once you could identify what triggers it, then you could work on and research what can help you. Because there are certain things that we guide you. Yeah. But we are not miracle workers to take it away in a blink of an eye. This requires lots of work, transformation. And just like the transformation requires work, human emotion requires work. And that depends on the individual and the background. So I would suggest that once you identify with it, you do your research in what area that you think can help you, and you start exploring so you can get the help that leads you to a path that brings you back to balance. And it's an everyday struggle, my dear lady, for some people, and that's nothing to be ashamed of.
Exactly. I was diagnosed bipolar, and I have my days where I'm zooming at the mouth, and I can't seem to contain myself, fully, energetically anyways. I've gotten a balance on the way I feel about it, mostly. But it really is just finding that balance. What is it that really is kind of making me feel so down, so low? And I've noticed as the more I pay attention, when I get into those points, when I'm in those lows, they don't feel quite so low because I'm understanding them differently.
Oh, wow.
And so, it really, is finding out what it is that works for you and what it is that triggers those low points. And I mean, sometimes depression can be from anxiety. Anxiety comes from worrying about things that haven't happened yet. I mean, it really comes down to finding out what your triggers are, what it is that's bringing you to that point, and then trying to, and that's the work part, it really look at it differently.
Yeah, work is that's the hardest part. Talking about it is the easiest part because we like Band-Aids, and I used to do that too many moons ago because we're in a process, we're birth, we're teenagers, etc., so on. We do stupid things up until we're 30, blah, 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 and then we start saying things different, the whole 9 yards. But I think that once, you identify and you really understand that this action sometimes is like a workout, is like working out every single part of your muscle, but this muscle is your heart. You understand that, don't beat yourself up.
Right.
Understand that these things happen and we are working towards solutions, and we're not abnormal because we feel a certain way. We're aware of it, so we have the opportunity to change it, or at least come to a place where we're in acceptance of our own structure inside, our own limitations, if we have limitations.
Right. Was there another question?
You see if Tammy's take on that one.
Oh, did you have anything to say on that one, Tams?
Nope, I completely agree. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, mental illness of any kind, or any other really, even physical ailments, it really is how we're looking at it, and how whether or not we can accept it within ourselves. And I mean, sounds really bad just coming from someone saying it, but really, I come from a family of mental illness, and I have family with physical ailments as well, and some of them don't enjoy their lives very much, and they live very much miserably. And then others of them are very happy to even have the opportunity to wake up every day and see what limits they can get past today. And they take it as a challenge and they find it beautiful. So it really, really, I mean, with any ailment, illness, anything, it's how we view it and how we choose to experience it.
There are people here who need to talk to Theresa privately. Does she have a website?
Okay, and Theresa, do you have a website? Because we have people that would like to contact you.
Yes, it's theresalepre.org. And you could sign up for the Rise Up movement. You could send me a message and we could set up an appointment, or you could just follow the newsletter. We're going to be doing a lot of things because this is what it's all about. And then it will be eventually what I would like to see, where we co-collaborate and then other people start coming in, because I think that's another thing that we should address, is that our tools are giving to us for specific reasons. And there are certain things that I'm super cool at, and they're cool and I passionately love doing. And there's other things that I do, but I would probably rather not do because I know that someone else has more patience than me, or someone else can ace it better than me in that area. And I'm not ashamed to say that's just how it is, because I am for the co-collaboration. And that's what we're working on as well. So that's why we want everybody to come together individually, collectively, because we are rising up. So yeah, that's where we're heading for. And it's hard to do. And I think that people don't understand that, because look, all eyes are on the person that wants to make a change, whoever that person might be, in any type of situation. And when you have a passion for something, you have this belief beyond what you could explain that humanity is worth it. You are part of this chain. You want to do. And through that small mustard seed, you are willing to plant it because you know that the next person only needs one droplet of water. And that's what I'm all about, because I believe that the roots can be planted in a foundation that we can knock it down. We can knock it down. We can knock down hatred. We can knock down equality. We could work together through our differences. We could say, it's okay. I am divine, but I don't know it all. And I want to learn it all. And I want to draw from each and every one of the people that I meet. Why is that so hard for us to do? Like, that baffles me, guys. That's one of my human pet peeves, because I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, why is that so difficult to do? And say we all have a piece of it. And yes, some people can speak more intriguing than others, but then some people can lay their hands on you and heal more elegantly than others. So what, as long as it's getting done.
That's right.
I agree. That's amazing. And we all have something to bring to the table.
Yes.
Every one of us. And there is room at the table for everyone. And I think as we grow in this and mature in this, we will be able to see that and know when and sense when it's not your turn. You know, everybody wants a turn.
Yes.
Like you said, Theresa, everybody wants to be heard.
Absolutely.
And some people, there are those that don't want to be heard, that need to be heard.
Yes.
It's amazing. So I think you are on target. You are on target with the Rise Up movement. You're on target with the book. And it's beautiful to see that many people are starting to get it. They're starting to get it. And we're maturing into this thing of it being more enlightened than what? I don't know. But
Maybe being more human, right? We're more human.
Yeah. Yes. More human. Exactly. And loving and sharing and seeing that everybody has a different part. That just blows me away, because I love your part and I love Norma's part. And it's an honor to see it in action and see how things flow. And I see this with the Rise Up movement. I can see this going global. I can see this going across the country. I can see people rising up because they're realizing that what they have to say is important, and what they have to say can change something, and it means something. So,
we are important, each and every one of us.
Yes.
We're important. We are loved. We are everything that we dream we could be. If we could just put some things aside, we can accomplish it. We can accomplish it. And all the other stuff in between is the fun stuff. And, you know, if you want to astral project and if you want to rise up to the moon, I'm all for that stuff. But I'm also very much for the human condition in the process of it all, because we are speaking open and honestly, and we are saying there is a way. And yes, we understand what's going on, but as we understand what's going on, we will rise up together and we will make a difference, and we will stop sitting on the fence, because those forces that want to keep us down, they no longer have a place in our life. And that's what I'm pushing for. And that's what I'm continue to push for, because it's not a popularity contest for me. I never think of those things. I never, even when I know that some attentions are not meant in the best way, I handle that as it comes. And most people, when it comes to that, they're going to hide behind that anyway, because they're not going to really want to come out and call themselves out unless they want to act like shemeggies. And that's a whole different thing. I'm not down for that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I am down for open and honest discussion and coming together and speaking about the traumas that happen as we heal, as we hold space, as we invite the divine essence of the ancient wisdom into our lives, because it does exist. And I do believe, and I've seen miracles because I'm one of them. Yep. And that's why I understand that each and every person is a miracle, because they birth a rebirth when they open themselves up to their authenticity. And that's how I rock and roll, guys. And I don't make no bones about it.
And we love you for it.
Yes,
I love you guys too.
We love you.
Yes, exactly, because really, it's.
Thank you all for watching.
Huh? Oh, sorry. I thought he was reading me something. My bad.
No,
apologies. Yeah, and thank you, everybody. Yeah, for watching, for sharing, for hanging out with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been really amazing, and Theresa, because really, you are one of those ones that, and I have to say, one of the first real females. You and Tammy and a few others that have, for women, for me, been the first real
Really?
women. You know what I mean?
Thank you,
Like that I
sweet pea.
could
I'm
be,
very honored.
that I
Thank
could
you.
be my
You humbled me.
exactly, that I could be whoever, you know,
You are
what
me. I am you. We
without
are
the
essence of
without
each other.
everything that I've dealt with from many other females in my life. And so,
We are making a difference. We are here to rise up together.
yeah,
And please visit me at theresalepre.org. And remember, this is Self-Worth September.
yes.
So we are worthy. We'll follow that up next month rather, with dealing with fear, because self-worth, fear, all these things, forgiveness, we must deal with to get to peace. We must deal with to get to absolution. We must deal with to get to heart and soul, to become one. As we raise the energies, as we play on in the multidimensional fields, we have to play in the field of humanness first in order to understand how to master those other energies.
Yep, that we do. That we do, because this is the primal, the beginning.
Absolutely, my lady.
Base, the human, right?
Yes, my ladies, you are absolutely correct.
We love
So
you.
thank you all
Love
again.
you
We
too.
appreciate you again. And
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
we're gonna. Well, you know, I don't even know what to say. Really, I'm
make this a threesome.
right. Yeah, everyone's saying threesome on ladies' night, and you know what?
Yes.
Just so everyone knows that ladies' night is not strictly just Tams and myself. It's anyone that wants to come in and join in the conversation and has
Wonderful.
Yes.
so
There's so many voices. There's so many women who want to genuinely empower.
yes. And so anyone that wants to, you can contact us as well. Just leave a message here on this page, or Spirit Intuitive Tammy, or Holistic Mystic Norms, anywhere you want to go. You can find us anywhere.
Look on Facebook.
Look on Facebook. You find us all over,
Facebook.
everywhere.
Anywhere, and
So
every corner of the earth, right?
If you want to join us for ladies' night, or if you have any other questions or anything, just let us know. And we are deeply grateful to you all. Thank you all so much. Namaste.
Love you.
Mwah. Let's see if I can do this right this time.